I believe we're ready. We're ready to go. Let me call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, Tullahoma, Tennessee. Today is March the 28th, 2022. So at this time, I'd like Ms. Reverend Emily Plunk to please come forward and offer the invocation and lead us in the pledge to the flag. If you would, please stand.
Father, in the name of Jesus, God, we thank you once again for this time to gather together and represent the people of this city. We thank you for all that are here. We ask you now in the name of Jesus to help us all to represent you well as we represent the people of this city. In the strong name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Plum. This time I'd like to ask the city recorder to call the roll.
Yes. Mayor Noes.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Blanks.
Here.
Alderperson Amacher.
Here.
Berry.
Here.
Blackwell.
Here.
Dunn. McGee. Here. 6 present.
6 present, so we do have a quorum. So at this time, I'd like to recognize our honorary alderman for this evening, Ms. Angela Vaughn. Ms. Angela Vaughn has a distinguished career at the Tullahoma High School and has plans for moving on to Institution of Higher Learning this fall. And at this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Vaughn to come visit me in front of the flag. We'll get a picture. Congratulations on being our honorary alderman this evening. We'll have some more things to say to you and about you in just a moment.
Thank you.
I will note that in addition to Ms. Vaughn's background and academic experience at the high school, where she has done a lot of things with cheering particularly, she will be attending the University of Tennessee at Pulaski, UT Southern this fall. And oh, by the way, she is our new Miss Tullahoma. So let's give her a hand.
Oh, yes.
And we'll let you expound on some more things when we come around doing our alderman reports. We'll call on you. Thank you. Are there any proclamations and awards?
Not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay. Then at this time, we'll go through the approval of the agenda. You all have had an opportunity to look at the agenda that's been prepared for this evening. If there are there any additions that anyone would care to make to the agenda this evening? Hearing none, the agenda will be approved. Okay, at this time, we'll hear comments from the citizens. Citizens may address anything that's on the board on the agenda for tonight. If you have comments, please.
I do, Mayor.
Come state your name and address.
My name is Paul Sirks, and I live at 210 George Lane here in Tullahoma. I've asked the board to consider expanding the pool that we use at the Tullahoma Airport on the board. For those people that contribute to the airport but don't necessarily live within the city limits. And I want to share, before you make those decisions on that request, I want to share a couple of data points with you. We have something along the lines of 66 hangars out there that are owned, 56 of them by private owners. So those 56 people certainly pay some property tax for the city. They also lease property that their hangars sit on, and that money comes to the city. There's also an additional 18 hangars that Harton owns that people pay Harton as a leaseor, and some of that money's got to come to the city. We also sell fuel out there, and that's where we get a lot of our money that funds the airport. But out of that fuel, based upon how an individual airport owner buys it, whether it's self-service or they get full service, or they buy 100 low-lead fuel or jet fuel, every gallon they pay somewhere between 25 cents and $1 per gallon. So that money comes directly to the airport in our funding to try to cut down the funding of this to the city. And then there's, of course, the gas tax, the fuel tax that goes to the state that helps fund us with grants that we get to keep our airport maintained. So the pool of people that I'd like to expand our consideration to be on a board are those people that have a vested interest in that airport. That'd be the hangar owners, the leaseors, or leasees, I mean, and maybe some businesses there. But someone has a definite interest in the airport, and not just, and they unfortunately sit outside the city limits. Some as close as a mile, and I like for them to be considered in the pool of people to be on our board that you all appoint. So anyway, I want to give you those data points and wait for your decisions.
Thank you, Mr. Search. I'd like to ask the board if they have any questions for Mr. Search. Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Search. We'll be.
You're welcome.
Oh, you, okay.
Is this or will we have an opportunity to ask him questions when we get to that?
No, once we go into the board meeting, we will not have that opportunity. You may ask any question now.
I'll wait and.
I got some pretty thick skin, so don't worry about it.
Well, I one of the things my question for you is, we have seen people apply from within our city and have multiple people who live within our community itself who are our taxpayers apply.
Yes.
And I've seen, I thought, fantastic candidates not be chosen because,
They absolutely are. And I just want to be able to add that there's whatever that number of people is that is invested in the airport into that pool, and we select the best qualified anyway. Or you guys would point the best qualified.
In having this conversation, I've obviously read this, but my question for you was a follow-up question, which I forgive me if I missed this part. Is the proposal that you're wanting, does it limit to ensure that there is a significant more, like that there's like 2/3 of them be people within the city itself and 1/3?
It doesn't say that, but I would certainly entertain it. I mean,
Okay.
because I want to have the majority of the people that fund the airport the best. But I don't want to disallow others that have a vested interest in the airport. I actually think that personally that maybe 50% ought to be pilots, but that's not there either, and I'm not trying for that. But I understand what you're saying.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I would remind the board that any airport any airport appointments to the board are board appointments, so you would have an opportunity to review any candidate that was proposed. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Search.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we have no other comments from the citizens. We'll move on to our reports from the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This morning, we'll start with Alderman. Let's start with Alderman Blackwell.
Okay. So I had a Board of Education meeting last week. We were able to honor Marion and Stephen Coleman, and a lot of people turned out for that. So I'm really excited to see that. I wanted to share with y'all a couple things that are happening right now that they are working toward, and pardon me if I get this, updating their welding ventilation system at THS, because they'll be partnering with TCAT for dual enrollment starting in 2022, which I think is, when we talk about pathways to to jobs. This is fantastic for our community. So I wanted to share that that's something that they're aiming to do starting in this fall. So our students will have an ability to have dual enrollment classes with TCAT. They also have pushed out, there's some changes in from the state legislature regarding open enrollment timing. So I'd encourage all of you, if you have questions, to look at the new policy that the city schools pushed out regarding timings of that. It just mainly changes really their time frame for when open enrollment happens at the schools. And that's about it with the Board of Education. Regarding downtown, I know we're working toward updating some landscaping and are hoping to have some meetings with the Rotary to thank them for that generous donation and see kind of what their thoughts were. So that's all I have to do.
You're welcome.
Oh, and you all have 2 pieces of paper from what I've been doing at the schools, just in case you get any questions regarding the healthy relationship stuff. And that's it.
Thank you,
Thank
Alderman
you.
Can we go with Alderman McGee?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Industrial Board of Coffee County canceled their March meeting, and then I wasn't able to attend the Tullahoma Housing Authority meeting due to being in the hospital. I'm doing much better, thank goodness for that. But I would like to announce or advertise the 2nd annual Easter egg hunt that will be held Saturday, April the 16th, and I will be partnering with Tullahoma Parks and Recreation and South Jackson Civic Center, which I'm very excited about partnering with them. It'll be held Saturday, April the 16th. We're going to do something a little different this year. 8 o'clock a.m. at City Stamps, we're going to have a breakfast with the Easter Bunny. So the kids can come and have breakfast and take pictures. We'll have a backdrop set up, but you'll have to bring your own camera to take pictures of your children. And then the egg hunt will be at 1 o'clock there at South Jackson Civic Center. I also want to remind everyone of the other egg hunts that are scheduled throughout the city. Glick & Woods will be having their egg hunt the first weekend of April. Hands-On Science Center, they'll have one also on Saturday, April the 16th, and there are many others scheduled. I just don't have the dates, but it's a lot for the kids to do during the month of April for Easter. And that is all that I have. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mr.
Alderman
Mayor.
McGee. Alderman Berry.
Mr. Mayor, first, I thought our parliamentarian gave us these sheets, and it made sense, right? So I think it's applicable to more than just the activity that you're doing. It's something we should all maybe pass out community. Since our last meeting, I attended a planning commission meeting. We've got a economic development meeting, I believe, week after next, and a sports council meeting, I think, on the 9th. And that is all I have to report.
Very good. Alderman Longmarker.
Yes, sir. Well, to begin, I have to apologize for my lack of attendance to some of the tourism council meetings, and I need to get an update about those. Those tourism councils are held on the third Thursday, and they're always at 1 o'clock. And for some reason, Thursdays turn out to be my busiest day for concrete. So I have been stuck at concrete job after concrete job, but I will have an update and try to do so, maybe even get your assistance with that at the next meeting, because I know we just had one and I wasn't able to attend due to work. For the 911 board, we do have a meeting next week, so I will definitely bring an update after that. But other than that, I haven't had any other meetings. However, I do want to go ahead and do my small business shout out to, this is a business I just learned about, haven't even been there yet, just totally excited. It's called Definite Wellness. So we're in this season of everybody wants to get fit, and I talked about one way you could do that a few weeks ago. This one, they also do Botox, but they do even more. They have IV hydration centers and weight loss therapies and aesthetics and treatments. And the IV hydration is something that kind of caught caught wind in Nashville, and I think that's really cool, especially if you know, it's allergy season, you get sick, you don't want to get dehydrated. So check them out. They're just right up the road, 401 Wilson Avenue. And again, it is called Definite Wellness, and their phone number is 931-434-0439. And then I also want to speak a little bit to the study sessions. I've had some questions in the public about study sessions being on the agenda, and, you know, wondering why, you know, what happened, like, are we having those, or do we have those, or, you know, when the camera's cut off, a lot of people don't realize that we're not done when we have a study session. And so those are not currently recorded, but that doesn't mean that they are not open sessions to the public. So I know some of us have tried to make that clear, but the public is welcome. And if you have questions about what goes on in those study sessions, I have noticed that we have a packet, obviously tonight, that we are going to be talking about Board of Mayor and Aldermen policies and procedures, and I will have much to say about that. So if you have questions on that, then reach out to me after tonight if you were not able to make it. All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Alderman Blanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since our last meeting, I have had a Duck River meeting last week. We also had a TUA Compensation Committee meeting. We have plenty of water. It's been raining. The reservoir's full. Drink as much as you need. Water your yard. Wash your car. We appreciate it. Shop Tullahoma, and that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
And we do still have some comments coming from our honorary alderman. Ms. Vaughn, we'd like to hear from you what your activities are at school, what your activities are planning to be when you finish school this year.
Well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. This weekend is our 2022 prom. I'm super excited about that. Our digital arts program at the high school has been decorating the gym today and throughout the week, and they've worked so hard. Our programs at Tullahoma High School has really prepared, I know, me and many other students at our school for the future. So that's really exciting that they're expanding on that next year. I have signed to the University of Tennessee Southern to cheer there in the fall. I'm going on a cheer scholarship, and I'm also going on with the Tennessee Hope and Tennessee Promise scholarship. So I'm super excited about that. I'm super sad that I'm leaving Tullahoma High School, graduating on May 13th, but Tullahoma has really built me into the person I am today. Winning DYW last year, Distinguished Young Woman of Tullahoma, and going to the state program has really changed me. And the Distinguished Young Woman program in Tullahoma is one of the top programs in the United States. So it's up there. It's a really good program. So all of the people that have helped us with that have really built me and others up at Tullahoma High School, and it's just an amazing town to be a part of, and I'm happy to be here. So thank you.
Well, I had one question, maybe two. What should be your major in college?
My major, I'm going to be a business major. I'm hoping to open my own gymnastics gym and open my own hair salon after college.
You've answered both my questions then, and we will need those in Tullahoma, so you're welcome back.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for being here this evening. Appreciate it. The mayor's activities for the last week, I had an opportunity to present a certificate of appreciation to DKI, which opened a new business over on Atlantic Street. Certificate was on behalf of the it's the benefit of Tullahoma Pride is the one that presented this proclamation, appreciating their improvement of that property there. Then on the same day, we had, this room was filled with firemen and that were receiving promotions within their department. So we had 7 firemen that were actually promoted to new positions on that day. So that was a grand occasion. On April, also this past week, we had Mayor, his Alderman Barry has indicated, we had the Planning Commission meeting. There's too many meetings going on. But anyway, we did the Planning Commission meeting. So with that, we'll get our report from the city attorney.
This last week, I spent a good deal of the week at the Municipal Attorneys Association meeting in Brentwood, which was very enlightening. I also enjoyed seeing a lot of my old friends and people from MTAS there that participated in that. We discussed a lot of topics. One of them was the adoption of policies and procedures by municipalities, which we're going to be talking about tonight, so that was very timely. Another was the different types of municipal governments, such as we have here. We're a private act city. We have our own charter. That's different from a general government charter or a home rule city. And we discussed the fact that many charters are outdated because they haven't been upgraded much, and we're anticipating upgrading our charter with the help of MTAS later on this year, which will be a good thing to do because we have a lot of provisions therein that are pretty archaic now. We discussed the law of drones. Fortunately, we don't have too many drones here to worry about yet, but that may be coming. Also, regulation of food trucks. Fortunately, we don't have too many of those here either, but that may be coming. And a lot of general topics of general interest to all municipalities. I really enjoyed the meeting and appreciate the opportunity to have been there. And if you all have any questions about that, call me or ask me now, whichever you prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Wortham. Any questions for Mr. Wortham? If not, we'll move on to the report from our city administrator.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to update the board that Tullahoma's charter amendment, which was to revise language related to delinquent property taxes. It's passed the legislature, been signed by Governor Lee, and we feel like in the next couple of weeks we should receive a copy of that for you all to adopt. Also wanted to share next Tuesday, we have a board that's meeting that only meets as called. So it's the Tullahoma Housing, Educational, and Health Facilities Board. As I said, they don't meet frequently, but we do have a request from community partners. They are a corporation seeking to acquire and renovate the Tullahoma Village apartments, and they will be coming to meet with that board to request property tax abatement through a pilot lease agreement. So just wanted to keep you aware of that. If there's any more developments, I'm sure the mayor and I will let you know. Also, last Friday, had the opportunity to participate in a program put on by TVA. You'll remember that I was part of a small cohort from Tullahoma that participated in an innovation academy with TVA. This was a follow-up to that, where they brought communities together, economic development professionals mostly, and brought us together to share stories with one another. But mainly it felt like a training on how we could come back to our communities and lead more productive, collaborative conversations and talk about these complex economic development issues like workforce needs. How do you create jobs? How do you address getting formerly incarcerated people back into the workforce? Really complex topics like that, and how to go about having a conversation that comes up with not only creative and innovative solutions, but actionable steps that you can take to start moving towards a solution. So it was really positive, and we used it as an opportunity. Beverly Lee, one of the TEDC board members, attended with Winston Brooks and myself, and we were able to get some really, I think, constructive feedback on the idea of an Arnold Heritage Center and Innovation Park for Tullahoma. So anyway, wanted to share that with you, and then just a couple of dates for you to get on your calendar. We have the opening day of Farmers Market Tullahoma coming up Monday, April 4th. They are every Monday from 3 to 7 p.m. On the grounds of South Jackson Civic Center. Also, save the date for our next, it's our annual Employee Service Award Luncheon. You all were really nice to, I think almost all of you attended last year's event. It'll be a luncheon again. That's what our department heads and employees have asked for us to continue that, and it'll be May 5th at 11:30. And then next week, I'll be in the office on Tuesday, but Monday I have agreed to participate on an MTAS interview panel in Signal Mountain, which is just right outside Chattanooga. They are recruiting a city manager, and I'll be sitting in on that interview panel. So I appreciate Mayor Noes allowing me to do that. We have certainly used lots of other cities' support during our interview processes, so I really feel privileged to kind of return that favor. And then Jordan Wilkins and myself will be attending for professional development, our spring conference of the Tennessee City Managers Association next week, Wednesday through Friday. Okay, that's my report.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's this time, of course, the departmental reports are in your packet starting on page 2. But this time we'll go with the consent agenda. I will remind you that all matters listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine, will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. During the portion of the meeting reserved for comments from the citizens as shown on the agenda, citizens may request that the board remove an item from the consent agenda so that the discussion can be considered separately for that item. So this time I'll read the caption for the items that are on the consent agenda, starting with 22-39, the minutes from the March 15th meeting. Item number 2240 is the renewal of a 5-year lease for a postage meter with Pitney Bowes for $8,481.80. Item number 2241 is to approve an agreement with AVAZA to provide interpretation and translation services under a state contract. An initial $200 one-time registration fee is required, and the cost of the program is based on usage. 2242, to announce a vacancy on the Tullahoma Airport Authority on that board and to consider applications from interested citizens to serve for the remainder of an unexpired term from February through ending on February the 22nd, 2026. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda? Blackwell and Barry's second. Any discussion on that consent? Green for yes and red for no. Consent agenda is approved 6-0. Okay, under unfinished business, there is no unfinished business, so we'll move on to the new business. Ordinance number 1574, an ordinance that we've touched on earlier with comments from the citizen, from Mr. Search. It's an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma, Tennessee, to amend Section 2-106, which is the residency requirements for appointees. It's on Title II, Boards and Commissions, the Tullahoma Municipal Code to allow consideration of non-resident holding a vested interest in the Tullahoma Municipal Airport as appointees to the Tullahoma Airport Authority Board. This will be for approval on the first of 2 readings. Is there a motion to approve ordinance number 1574? Motion fails for lack of a motion. Moving on to item number 2243. An annual facility use agreement with the Tullahoma Swim Club for their use of the D.W. Wilson Community Center in the indoor pool for practices and swim meets. Those details were presented to you in your packet on page 58.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve and a second from Alderman Berry. Any discussion?
I have a question.
We have a question from Alderman.
The agreement was, I'm sure, in between the president of the swim club and our parks director, correct?
That is correct.
I have a question for you, sir.
Mr. Anderson, would you come to the podium?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes. I know there's been a long and distinguished relationship between the city of Tullahoma and the Tullahoma Swim Club. Tullahoma Swim Club was established in 1950. We've held state swim meets here back in the early 60s. They had fundraisers. It was really a big deal. And we've had some collegiate swimmers come out of Tullahoma Swim Club. So I know that we, since I've been on the board, we've not had a facilities use agreement, I don't think. It was just verbal.
Correct.
And I looked over the document, and, you know, most everything seemed pretty normal, and so I texted the swim club president and said, is everything, you know, hunky-dory with you guys? Because in times past, you know, sometimes there was some, you know, pushback, but, you know, there wasn't anything major there. She said, I didn't know that we could do anything. I said, well, we need to know if you have concerns. You can come to the board, we can go to you, and she didn't have anything major other than, you know, pool water temperature is an issue. When you've swam 2,000 yards, 85-degree pool does not feel good, you know, but I understand that it's hard to keep the pool temperature up to where you're having exercises for the senior citizens and also doing swim practice in the afternoon. So, you know, be aware, that's something to be aware of.
Correct.
I know the Tullahoma, the Manchester pool has a therapy pool where they can heat it up to quite warm. And a lot of our residents will go to Manchester just to take care of that. When we were funding the upgrades to these pools, there was not money to do a separate therapy pool. That was 8 years ago, I guess, or a while back. So I would like to see the City of Tullahoma and Tullahoma Swim Club continue working together as well as possible.
Absolutely. And I'm excited that I've worked with Ms. Susan Farmer. She did have a few concerns. There wasn't anything, you know, really that could have been a deal breaker. The temperature is an issue, but as you said, you know, having our aerobics in the mornings, our swim lessons we're looking to increase as well. Having that happy medium of a temperature that we really can live with for practices was of high importance. But we also understand that for the meets in particular, it's important to have the correct temperature. So that's why in the agreement, we agreed to lower the temperature for the swim meets.
Well, I know in the regulations of United States Swimming, they have to have a specific temperature.
Yeah.
Correct. And it was 82 was the maximum that they got. So we said we would make sure that the pool was at the correct temperature for the meets.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
We'll do like,
I'm thankful to see certain things similar to Jimmy. My dad was the president for a long time over there too, and there are certain things that I remember coming up as a kid even. So I'm happy to see that we are saying, yes, we will handle the lane ropes. We will handle the lane tightening systems. I had the same, and you got the email from me, the concern about the 82 degrees for a meet seemed a little hot to me as well, and in practice too. So I know that, I guess my question from that would be, I would love for in the future years, you said because of the cost of heating and cooling, if that's something we can look at how much that costs and whether that can be absorbed. Because I can tell you, when you're doing a 500 free, by the time you're done, you are sweating and almost about to throw up at 82 degrees. So just if we can think about that for next year.
And that's something we can look at, especially in the meets themselves. Our maximum was in the agreement to 82 degrees. So if we could maybe bump it a couple degrees more for the meets, I mean, we can look into doing that this year.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I also would like to say that what's interesting, and I've seen because my daughter swam club for a little bit. She did not do well, so we pulled her out. It's the 3 lap lanes. I appreciate that because if I put her back in, I would love to be able to swim laps again there. So thank you.
Alderman Berry.
Just a real quick comment. And that's what I had thought. So this is the first agreement that we've had. I love that direction, and hopefully that is something we continue with all of the other sports, because I think that it is good to have, so there's not this back and forth about who's responsible for what and who's not. And Mayor, if I might, while he's standing here, I want to point out, I had heard through the grapevine that on a down day, you went out and painted every foul pole yourself in the city. And so, yeah, that was pretty impressive, and I appreciate the work that you're doing here.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Any other comments? Alderman Banks?
One more quick question, and if none of my other colleagues have questions. Is this the only other entity in the city that we're doing an agreement with right now? Is this the first
Currently,
one?
yes. I'm in the process of developing a Little League agreement. It's not going to make it for this year, of course, but Little League, the Tennessee Soccer Association, Mullins for the football.
What about Grider Stadium?
Grider Stadium, we're meeting in a couple of weeks, actually, with the city schools to update that agreement as well.
Long time needed.
Yes.
And coming.
Thank you.
Skinning one bear at a time.
That's right.
Okay. Any other comments?
Thank you all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Questions on item number 2243. Vote green for approval, red for no. Passes 6-0. Item number 2244 is a request to approve a brush grinding and debris removal contract in the amount not to exceed $28,425 with Benchmark Grind and Mulch Company in partnership with the city of Lewisburg. You've seen the details on that in your agenda. And actually, before we have the vote on this, I'd like Ms. Moody to offer some background.
Okay, thank you. As you know, we had a contract with Johnson Mulch, and that company is no longer operating. So we have had to move forward and considered issuing a request for proposals, but out of concern for the high prices that we would get, our Public Works Director was able to find a company in this area that has an existing contract that we can collaborate and obtain that pricing, that competitive pricing from. And we are proposing to basically piggyback that contract for the rest of this budget year. And so you have a request to authorize this in an amount not to exceed their available budget for this item. So we have currently $28,425 remaining in this year's budget for mulch, and we will not exceed that with this contract. And then we'll seek out new pricing going into the new budget year.
Thank you, Alderman Berry. Could I get a motion on 2244? Alderman Berry.
Motion to approve.
And Ms. McGee, Alderman McGee, second. An Alderman's motion and a second. You've heard some background. Is there any discussion? There's no discussion. Call the motion. Excuse me.
I was going to speak, but I raised my hand. You saw me. Yeah, actually, I have a little discussion about this. So is this something that the city of Lewisburg does with other towns, did you say?
The city of Lewisburg has a contract with Benchmark Grinding and Mulch Company.
Okay.
And we're able to collaborate and use their competitive pricing.
Oh, so we're using.
So any local government can piggyback on another local government contract.
Okay. So is this something that would normally go out for a bid to, like, did we offer this to local businesses?
So they have had a competitive process and signed this agreement, and that pricing is still good for another year. We're going to piggyback on that rather than have our own competitive process.
Right, but where is this Benchmark Grind and Mulch Company located out of?
They are out of Christiana, Tennessee, Rutherford County.
Okay. The only problem that I see with this is when we don't offer that competitive bidding process for our local businesses, they feel, and we get this time and time again, I know everybody on this board has had one of those phone calls, I didn't even get a chance. We don't know 100% that we're saving money, and we also didn't offer that opportunity to local businesses. So for that reason.
So I disagree for two reasons. One, we don't have a local company.
I didn't ask a question.
Johnson Mulch was the local company that is no longer operating. We've had to use a company out of Chattanooga. This is the only company, the next closest company in our region. And second, we do, while we obviously can't predict the future and what proposals will come in, we know that a company who's had a contract that was bid approximately a year ago, that those prices are going to be lower than if we ask for today's price. So that's why we're suggesting we do this for
I
the
feel
rest
like
of the budget
this,
year.
I wasn't done speaking, but I feel like this was premature, because if we could get that pricing, I think that's great, and I think that is a good thing, but I don't think that we need to usurp and go ahead and do so and piggyback all that without offering it, because there may be businesses that we don't know about. And I didn't mean to say that you had done anything. I think this is great to have this partnership and to know about this, but I want to make sure that we follow the proper channels to give businesses the opportunity first. So thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Long. Alderman Berry.
Real quick, if I may, for my own clarification, this company had gone under mid kind of season, correct? And do we have work piling up, and what exactly does this, is this
You might
our?
remember after the tornado that we experienced and all of the storm cleanup, I discussed under one of my reports that we had an emergency purchase, and we had a company come from Chattanooga to help us clear our brush. We also have burned a lot of brush this year, and as you would imagine, that generates some complaints from the neighbors, and we'd like to not do that when at all possible. We are about 3/4 of the way full, is the way it was described to me at Public Works. If you want to drive by the facility, they're referring to it as Mount Rushmore right now because of how tall the stacks of, we've just had, as you can imagine, a ton of, everybody's experiencing a ton of brush this year from different wind events, the tornado. We're still having people clear out their properties and bring brush and limbs and tree stumps and everything else forward.
So we are in a situation where time is kind of critical, and we could put it out for bid, but it would take longer, prices could be higher, and it really kind of, the level of service we provide to the residents, this is just a quick fix to get us through.
The recommendation from Director Taylor and myself is that these are going to be more competitive, lower prices than we're going to be able to get by bidding it. So we'd like to use this option through the rest of the budget year.
Perfect, thank you.
Alderman Blackwell.
And I think just what Mrs. Moody just said, and I just want to make sure that we all heard this as well, that means if we wanted to take and do a competitive bid process for next year to see if there's a local person, we could do that. We had already gone with a local person who'd gone, unfortunately, who's no longer able to serve our community, and now this will just be a stopgap. Correct? That's what I understood, and that if we wanted to move forward with a competitive process.
Our preferred option is to have a collaborative agreement with Franklin County and to work together as governments to address this issue. You might also remember that. We discussed with them, my understanding is that the grinder they use has a Fiat engine, and they've been waiting on a part from Europe. What they've decided to do next is possibly surplus that grinder and purchase a different grinder that they could hopefully find the parts more locally. But that takes months for them to get the approval through their board, surplus the item, buy the new item. And so we hope that using this, like you said, as a stopgap, that we'll be able to revisit the partnership with Franklin County for next budget year.
Alderman Hallmark.
So I see no reason why you can't do both. Use them in the interim. That was kind of my point that I was trying to make, is to use this obviously as a need right now in the interim, but then also offer a competitive bidding process as well. If we had onlookers who could do the same, I think that, we offer that and not just give it to the first person or the first entity that we feel like, we can get to do it. That's great for an interim, but it's an unfair process for long-term, so.
Okay, we call the question on 2244. Green for approval, red for no. Passes 6-0. Thank you. There is no other new business. We will adjourn our Board of Mayor and Alderman meeting, and we'll go directly into the beer board. Are there any public comments from the citizens who care to discuss any item on the agenda for tonight for the beer board? If you would, please come to the podium and state your name. Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. The item number 22-BB06 is the minutes of the March 15th meeting of Beer Board. Is there your motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion from Blanks, seconded by Barry. In discussion. No discussion. Green for yes and red for no. Consent agenda is approved 6-0. There's no other unfinished business, so we'll move on into the new business. New business, I'll read the caption for 22-BB06, the beer application for special events permit nonprofit for the Tullahoma South Jackson Civic Association. Ms. Colleen Saunders, president. She'll be the manager in charge of beer sales for the events listed in the attachment and consider waiving all fees. Motion? Motion by Albacher, Blackwell, approved, seconded by Barry.
Do we need to say motion with waiving all fees?
It's in the.
Great.
It's in the caption. Any discussion?
Just have one comment.
Yes,
I'm going to recuse myself, am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Because I'm now a member of the GFWC Centennial.
That's an,
Okay, very good.
and that's
Any
the
other
next one,
discussion?
right?
Oh, it is the next one.
It's the next
Yeah.
one, yeah. I was,
This item is to approve a list
I
of
can vote on
annual
this one,
events.
but not the second one. Okay.
yes,
got it.
yes.
Okay, you can vote on BB 07. Green for yes and red for no. Approved 6-0. Move on to Beer Board number 22-08. Don't get these confused because this is different. It just happens to be occurring at the same place. It's a beer application special events permit for the manager in charge. It's for the GFWC, Centennial Women's Club. It's Colleen Sanders again as a member of the manager in charge of beer sales for the picnic and the music. It's a fundraiser event for the Hands-On Science Center and the other community projects on Friday, May the 20th, 2022 at South Jackson Civic Center, and waiving all fees. Motion from Barry, seconded by Blackwell. Any discussion on that? And green for yes and red for no. It's approved 6-0.
Nope.
5-0.
It's approved 5-0. We have an excuse here. 5-0. Okay, there being no other new business, we'll adjourn the Beer Board. And with that, if there's not any objection, we'll go directly into our study session, which should be
You don't
brief
have to
tonight.
sit through this part if you don't want to, but if you'd like to, you're welcome to.